Dell in Pittsburgh. Hi, Dell.
What's up, Eddie?
Hey, Dell, what's going on?
Sorry, I'm sick, man. My question was, so I've been trying to contact you for like 2 weeks now about that question about Ringo Starr. Remember, like, how he's like a theater act, but in Pittsburgh he's doing the arena, which is 15,000 seats. I checked what he's selling, and you said you had a theory about that.
Well, so your question, Dell, is that Ringo Starr in Pittsburgh, where you live, is playing an arena, which he hasn't done an arena in a long time as a solo act.
Yeah.
When is the show happening, Dell? What's the date of it?
I believe June, like 20th or something.
So it's about 6 months away.
Yeah.
Have you looked up on Ticketmaster, whoever the ticket seller is, and looked at the grid and see what it's selling?
Yeah, they brought the stage up a little bit, but it's still over 10,000 seats.
10,000 open.
Yeah, around there.
Yeah. See, Dell, I don't know. That kind of came up with Frampton, too, because Frampton, who just finished up his touring, Peter is community theaters or 2,000 to 3,000 seat venues for the most part as a headliner. And on that last tour that Frampton did, it was eye-opening because there were two arenas, the Garden and the Forum. Now, that was a little different because we know it was he's dealing with health issues and likely, not because he's playing the farewell card, but because he has a legitimate medical issue, it likely could be his last tour, and I'm sure he wanted to just say he played those buildings, so they'll find a way to make those buildings look respectable and put people in there and make it look like a good crowd. I had a friend of mine that went to the show at the Garden, and he said they made it look, more than good, and promoters have a way of doing that. So I'm not exactly sure why that particular venue would be doing that, although Ed is telling me he's doing a little research right now while we're talking, and that the venue is going to be curtained, which means they're going to cut it in half.
Oh, okay. Because it looks like they sold a bunch of tickets up top, because there's still tickets available up on the upper part.
Yeah. Del, thanks for your call. Get some rest. Feel better. Thank you for listening while you're sick. I appreciate it. Hopefully I don't make you more sick with my ramblings. Hopefully make you feel better. That's not an uncommon thing. There are now, Dell, in Dell's market of Pittsburgh, the night Ringo was coming through, or the promoter he decided to play for maybe didn't have access to a smaller venue. Maybe the theaters were booked. Maybe the promoter doesn't do business in those theaters. Maybe there's some exclusive deal that keeps them out. Whatever the case may be, that happens all the time. There are some acts that will only play for certain promoters in certain markets because they have history and a relationship with them. But you got to understand something. There are a lot of bands that play arenas that are not necessarily arena acts. There are bands and tours that will go into stadiums that aren't necessarily bona fide stone cold lock stadium acts, or theaters for that matter. But there is a lot of smoke and mirrors that can be done to make it look good. They can close the upper levels. They can pull the stage up. If you go into an arena, the stage would normally sit at one end of the arena, right? Well, if you set up for that show and you take the stage and you move it up to, say, the halfway mark, say mid-court in basketball or the midline in hockey, right? If you put the front of the stage there, you just took a building that is set up for 7,500 or 15,000 and cut it to 7,500. You've literally closed off an entire half of the building by configuring it like that. Then you just hang some curtains to the right and the left of the stage, and nobody even sees back there. Need to cut it more? You close the upper level. Now you just took a building that holds 15,000, you move the stage up, you cut it to 75, you curtain off the upper level, and you cut it to 5,000 or 4,000. There you go. Happens all the time. And then the person would say, well, why not just play a smaller, suitable building? Well, a few reasons. First of all, these arenas have these curtains and have these configurations because they're sitting there empty and they want shows too. And they need to be able to make it not look empty when the artist plays. And they might offer a favorable deal to the artist to play their venue over the theater in the market. So it just comes down to booking and politics and all that. But I've seen many shows in arenas where the act is not an arena act, but the arena's been configured to make it look as good as it can be. And here's the last thing on this, and we've talked about this a lot. You cannot anymore go into a show and look at a building and look at it full and see every seat pretty full or a shed pretty full and say, wow, these guys killed it. They sold it out. Unless you have knowledge of what really went on, you don't know. Why? Because of the way ticketing works now. The ticket dumps, the 4 for $10, the buy one, get one frees, the papering, the fluctuating ticket prices. The major promoters can make any gig look good and full. Doesn't necessarily mean those tickets were actually sold and it went the way they wanted it to go. You can have shows that you can look at and say, wow, it looks really good in here. And it's a stiff. It's a huge money loser. Because 60% of the tickets were sold at massive discounts or in Groupons or whatever. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Things just as they appear are not always the reality. Don't get me wrong. There are bands that are stone cold arena and stadium headliners that can go in there and fill the building. But my God, every day we get calls to this show. People like, yeah, the day before I got in for $6, $9. There was a buy one get one free deal. Promoters and venues don't do that out of the kindness of their heart. They do that because they want fannies in the seats no matter what it takes to make it look decent. And then when you're there, maybe you'll buy a beer. You'll have to pay for parking, and then maybe you buy the merch. So there's a lot of finagling that goes on with configurations, with curtaining, with closing off upper levels, closing certain areas, opening only a certain portion of the building. It's incredibly common, and it's just the way the business works.